Hey everybody, this is Hoang, and today we're going to be trying out a new video series where I go over deck lists that I've topped within the current Japanese format that I personally thought were interesting. And just to give you guys a bit of a sneak peek as to what we may expect within the BT5 format, or future formats in general. Do know that I will not be showing all of the meta lists in this kind of video. I'm just showing lists that I personally think are really interesting. So hopefully you guys can use these for inspiration or can use these to predict what may or may not be good to pick up in the current English format. And so, to kick us off, we start off with a really familiar face in Sarismon Green. Do note that in BT5, Sarismon, or download in general, actually got a few buffs. For example, they got the one cost option Royal Nuts, which, if I remember correctly, checks top 3 or 5, it's one of those, for download targets, and then choose one and add it to your hand. So this adds a lot of consistency, especially when you're trying to find your Sarismons, your Blossomons, etc. Not only that, but it also runs the new Argomon level 6, who disables Tamers when he's on the board. So with that, you can actually disable Nokias and whatnot. It's pretty good. This deck is really cheap and efficient, especially after HPD and Argomon level 5 were hit, so Green has to resort to trying out a couple of different things. There will be a couple of green lists in this video, so use that for inspiration. Moving on next, we actually revisit another familiar face, Imperial German. Now, Imperial German in the 1.5 format is actually a really powerful deck. However, it doesn't nearly break into the tier 1 territory due to its lack of removal and due to its inability to deal with just threats. However, in BT5 they actually get some significant buffs. Lobomon from BT4 on top of your Davis is a really huge boon as it sneaks in an extra attack. The Takumi Aiba is really good as well, because when you Digivolve into your Imperial German, you get an additional draw, as well as preventing your opponent from trying to rush you back, more or less. And then, to top it off, it's not shown in this list, but there is Omnimod BT5. While this list may not have run Omnimod BT5, I actually do think Omnimod is a really strong addition, as it gives you an extra attack on top of your Imperial German. So you can Imperial German swing, Imperial German swing, Imperial German swing again, and then Omnimod swing for the last time. And that is just icing on the cake, right? That's 4 damage in a single stack. Really powerful stuff. Also received a buff in another one cost evolution in the level 4 slot. You have Koalamon, so now you can get blocker and cheap evolution. You know, 2 birds with 1 stone. So, really good stuff. Up next, actually, a third familiar face, would you look at that, Ragna Lord Mod Black. Or rather, D-Brigade, right? So D-Brigade is something that debuts in BT4, and it actually incorporates a Ragna Lord Mod engine. So the concept of it is when you go into your Dark German, because if you have 5 or more D-Brigades in your trash, if you put it back into your deck, you can play Dark German for 3 as a hard slam, and then off of that 3, you can then go into Ragna Lord Mod. You're essentially speeding up Ragna Lord Mod by several turns. Ragna Lord Mod's inherent issue was that it's super slow, it's super vanilla up until the point you go into Ragna Lord Mod. Well, now with Dark German engine, we actually just bypass this issue completely, so it's actually a really smart tech. Not only that, but we can just naturally go into it, as we do run cards such as Tank German and Metal Greymon, and so we can naturally play the game as well. You feature the combo for Black War Greymon, which swings multiple times in a single turn, and that's why we run the Marcus, I would assume, as it gives you an additional memory. So, really interesting stuff. Now we have a familiar face for those of you that play Vanguard, Ryan Kai Purple. Ryan Kai is a really accomplished Vanguard player who has won several events, as well as gone to Worlds multiple times, and he has now gone into Digimon as well, so you guys should make sure to check him out. He does his own YouTube channel and everything, posts videos of his tournament matches. But Ryan Kai is actually doing something really interesting. He's not playing with Chaos Dukemon, he's not playing with Tactimon, that much anyway. No, he's actually going with Plutomon, and I think Plutomon is a really interesting addition to the meta, and I think it's arguably the best purple deck in this format. And the reason why is because the access and ease to Hell's Gate and Earthshaker is actually really insurmountable. This means you can answer cards such as Crusadermon, cards such as Shoutmon, etc. with relative ease. Decks like Chaos Gallantmon, in my opinion, I'm not a complete fan of, because your opponent can just hide in Raising and they just get a lot of value out of that, right? Because it's the on Digivolve effect. But in the case of Plutomon, even if you don't get to snipe, say your opponent's hiding and raising, you still get a draw too, which is really, really powerful. But not only that, but you're not only tied to killing a single stack, you actually have a wide variety of options. In this list specifically for Ryan Kai, he runs only Hell's Gate and Earthshaker, but there are a lot of purple options that you can try and incorporate in the future, such as Necrophobia, such as Revival from Darkness, right? There's a lot you can do. This deck is super flexible, it's really interesting. I think the difference between Plutomon and Black Metal Garurumon is that Plutomon does it on Digivolve, which means he's faster than Black Metal Garurumon would be. So, do keep that in mind. Next up, Ragna Lord Mod once again. Ragna Lord Mod actually gets a significant buff in the BT5 format, and it's not D Brigade, rather it's Karamon, or the Diaboromon line. So, just to kick us off, you may notice Infirmon that warp Digivolve specifically. So, what does that do for Ragna Lord Mod? Well, it's a similar logic behind Darkdramon, right? It's that you're skipping a level so that you can access Ragna Lord Mod significantly faster, and so by doing the Infirmon Warp Digivolve, you're actually accessing Ragna Lord Mod one turn earlier, which is really significant as this fixes a weakness of the deck. Not only that, but you're actually using Takumi Aiba, who, as we've mentioned before with Imperial German, shores up the early game, prevents people from swinging at you early. Ragna Lord Mod is extremely vulnerable in the early game, so Takumi Aiba is a really good addition. Not only that, but when you Digivolve into Ragna Lord Mod, you don't pass the turn, assuming you shove into one of the Legend Arms, but you also get an additional draw of the Takumi. Takumi may assist us also in finding Legend Arm pieces and whatnot. So there's a lot of really good stuff going on here. You also run the Shademon to deter early game swings. Really, really interesting stuff. And we're revisiting green. However, it's not Ceresmon, rather it is a more OTK style of green actually. So this has been becoming more popular and popular within the Hong Kong region actually, and the concept of it is you swing at your opponent for anywhere from 4 to 5 security, even lethal sometimes, in one single turn using the Grand Kuwagamon promo and Chaosmon. How Grand Kuwagamon works, for those of you that don't know, is Grand Kuwagamon Digiburst 2, +1 security attack to a card of your choice. It's not once per turn, by the way, so you can stack up your card. So you swing the Grand Kuwagamon for 3 damage, and then you can go into Chaosmon for an extra 3 damage. Chaosmon having piercing as well, removing threats while getting a lot of damage off. And then if your opponent claps you back, then you can just go into the Nidhogg. This deck is actually seeing a lot of success versus Crusadermon, because if Crusadermon wants to clap back at this deck, they have to swing a Crusadermon. This deck actually existed in the BT4 format. However, the reasoning I don't think this deck took off in BT4 as it did in BT5 is A, COVID shutdown happened, and that means BT4 was cut really short, but also War Greymon can clap back but remain standing. By remaining standing, you actually are immune to Nidhogg, as Nidhogg only bought dex cards that are rested. Crusadermon doesn't have that luxury. Crusadermon is forced to remain rested, thus making it a vulnerable target to Nidhoggmon. I think, given that this deck's popularity is increasing as we speak, it might cause a resurgence of War Greymon Yellow actually, which I think would be a really interesting adaptation into BT5 meta. So keep your eyes on this deck, it's really, really powerful. Now we have another purple deck. This is actually a Mega Zoo purple deck. And for those of you that don't know, Mega Zoo is a concept where you hard slam level 5s and 4s constantly, instead of playing 3 and 4s like a regular deck would. This deck has a lot of on-play effects, it has a lot of value to gain from these hard slams, and then you have cards such as Megidramon. What does Megidramon do to the deck, you may ask? Well, Megidramon calls your Galletmon. You hard slam Megidramon, if your opponent answers the Megidramon, then you potentially get a free Galletmon. That's a lot of tempo coming out of this, and Galletmon can then swing for a massive amount of security, assuming your opponent has enough trash, and then guess what? Well, we're playing a lot of early aggression via Vmon, so you can rack up that chip damage really, really well. We also have a lot of mill via Omnimod Zort. Right, Zort is able to revive level 5 cards with a play cost of 7 and below, I believe. And so all our valid targets, Chimeramon, Infirmon's a really interesting addition. These are all valid targets off of the Omnimod Zort. And if we have the Anubismon on the board, they all get haste. So really, really good stuff. Right, and then it also features the BT5 Omnimon that has Blitz, because this can go on top of your Galletmon. So a lot of really interesting ways to present lethal. And finally, we actually have a yellow deck, Crusadermon, but it's not the average Crusadermon with Slash Angemon. No, rather it is a Crusadermon with Shine Greymon. Now, I think Slash Angemon is actually a card that should get hit to 1, as it is insanely powerful. It has a lot of synergy with the decks in general, as you have War Gromon and Nightmon to give it a lot of inherent synergy with the minus 4k on top of the minus 8, which then results in killing any level 6 within the game, except for a few exceptions, such as Nidhoggmon, Ancient Garurumon, and Ancient Greymon. This being said, I think Shine Greymon is actually a really interesting adaptation, as it has a much stronger grind game than the average Crusadermon. So if we see a format where the games are going much longer, this actually may be the way. I do think Crusader Mod / Omnimod is still the best variation of yellow at the current moment, given everything that is stated on the board. However, this is a really interesting adaptation. I don't think we can rule this out. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this tournament recap kind of style, and if you do like it, let me know. If you want to see the list, I'll make sure to link them down in the description below, obviously references and whatnot. So, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.